Okay, welcome everyone to another session of the TTC Meetup. And today we have picked up a different theme, and we are going to be talking about testing careers. And we will start with careers in automation. Now, if we generally look around and look at the job descriptions for the various roles in the market, um, there is a predominance of automation. There is an ask of automation in almost every job description that you see. And it is because, while it is also true that automation to a large extent helps organizations to get to their customers faster, and that's why they believe that automation is a key component, and that's why there is a lot of focus on automation. So most of the roles that come out, or most of the jobs that come out, demand automation. And this has been a trend for quite a while. So we just wanted to talk as to how can one get prepared, what are the things that we can focus on, what are the trends even within automation. So what are some of the hot button items, as they say, or so let's do one round and see what your opinions are. Faiz, you are on camera, so so that's easy pickings. Please get started. Please share your thoughts on this.
Yeah, if I had known that, I wouldn't have started my camera. Okay, so what is your current question, Brijesh? Like,
My question is, so with the current situation in mind, what are your thoughts on testing careers in automation?
yeah, so I think so I will give my point of view on that. Okay, that there have been many discussions, many debates around it, but I somewhere believe that of course it has created some kind of we can say division among the testing fraternity, but on a larger scale I think testers has got more respect, and testers are getting like better pay. Okay, I'm not saying it was not the case earlier, but in general I can say that this has happened. So I think it's a very good side. Also we are in technology world, right? We are dealing with technology only. So if we do not use technology to make our lives better or make the products better, then it doesn't make any sense, especially when we are in 2022, right? So that's my thought on it, that we should embrace that change. And yeah, there are some issues with that also, that people are not able to understand, and that's why it's creating problem, but it's maybe a point of separate discussion. But I think overall it's a good thing that people are understanding and embracing this. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Who else wants to share their opinion? It's such a nice picture. Ajay and Muganesh.
Should say thanks, and a good topic, good one, Face. I mean, I like the line when you said it's not that today we are getting more respect, but we used to get, and it's changing. Good.
So what are your thoughts, Ajay?
I somewhere feel job is different from career, and career is dependent on that particular person 70 to 90%. And things will keep on coming, keep on changing. When I started, there was something called Silk, QTP, Silk. And I said, no, I don't want to learn. It went away. Then came Selenium. Yeah, it stood for like, or it's still standing, right? So it is there for 15 years. You build your career where one, there is a market need. Two, you're good at it, or your interest is towards. And third, which doesn't make you feel that it is a job or a career. You should see, anyways, we are going to spend 8 hours per day. Then why do something that we don't like? So let's figure out something that we have most of our interest in, and then do it. Someone wants to do Selenium, yeah, fine, go ahead, do Selenium. Someone wants not to do Selenium, okay, no problem. Right? So I feel industry has an effect, but we should not give that much importance. Industry changing and tester changing are two different things. That I learned from Rahul Verma. We complain, oh, this is the trend, that is the trend. So what? What are we doing about it, right? Unless you are the trend, don't worry too much about the trend. Know it, but don't worry too much.
That's a very interesting point that you make. In the industry, we've seen changes. We've seen tools come, tools go. We've seen technology evolve. We've seen people setting trends. We've seen companies come out and set trends, and we are currently seeing another trend. Just to give an example, the whole gamut of low-code tools which is in the market. Okay, every day a new tool is coming in the market, every single day. And now there are options. Some of the tools are open source, some of the tools are freemium, some of the tools are premium, depending on the kind of market need that they are trying to satisfy. Okay, and of course there are people who are focusing on that, but then again, there is still a market of those tools which are like, nah, we need more of descriptive programming. We are okay not to go in that direction. And you also see the testers' opinions divided on that. So if you ask some specialist testers, okay, for example, if I were to go and talk to, say, for example, Naveen, and ask him his thoughts on these whole set of low-code tools, he would still, and I'm pretty certain that he would still have a preference for tools that allow him to do descriptive programming and not show so much of affinity towards these low-code tools, because he finds them more comfortable, because that allows him more flexibility in terms of the goals that he's trying to achieve. So, when these sort of trends are there are opinions in the market, there are options in the market. But, we can have a totally separate discussion on the whole low-code thing. But then from a career perspective, or from the job perspective, I feel it is important that people realize the potential that every trend has and see what works best for them in their current situation. Because everybody's current situation differs. Not everyone is in the same situation in terms of a point where they are in their career, what their goals are, where they want to go, what is their current organization offering, what sort of thoughts that they have for the upcoming tools or technology. So there are multiple factors. Okay, and one thing that Faiz had said very rightly is that we've of course seen an increase in the respect, but we've also seen an increase in the salary, and that has made a big difference. A lot of people are looking at automation from that perspective. I've been on multiple discussions, threads, and debates where people say, you learn automation because it pays you well. Okay, and somewhere it's the truth. It's the truth, right? It pays you better, and especially if you are in a startup environment then sometimes the salaries are like, my eyes just pop out when I look at that number. Okay. And I start thinking, oh, I had 3 years experience, how much was I getting? so anyways, of course then I think, oh, there is inflation, blah blah, whatever, but on the other side there is this factor also. So, yeah, so that is my thought now. Yeah. Still open. Anybody else wants to share their opinion on how automation has changed and your thoughts on the whole topic? Vidya, Chaitanya, Priyanka, Seema, Vipul.
I'm back.
Yes.
Right. How has automation changed? I think, like I said, I agreed. It has increased both respect and salaries. It has also increased demand. A new set of roles, estates to test engineers to automation engineers to there's a whole new set of roles that have been created, but it has also created a divide. It has created a divide between the so-called manual testing and automation testing. It has created a divide in thinking that automation testers don't need to test. They will be provided and they just need to code it. And yes, the salary divide is probably the major factor because of which everyone who is in testing just wants to now shift to automation. They're not looking at, am I interested in this? Like what Ajay was saying, am I interested in this? Am I willing to put in that effort? Is there scope in the company that I want to do? Again, in the ones who want to move into automation career, there are some who are doing it with interest. They're putting in their extra time, they're putting in extra effort, they're learning, and then probably getting a chance as well to get into it. Then there are some who put in the effort, who try and get into jobs that say automation, but I think in the company itself, there is no automation, or they just attract people by saying we have automation, join us, they get people, and then the ones who join are disoriented. I think they're like, what am I doing here? I joined here because I wanted to do more automation and I'm not getting it now. Then there are some who don't want to. They're very clear. I don't want to learn automation, or I'm not good at automation. This is what I am. What can I do about it? Do I even have a career? Do I have a future? Or should I just, what else can I do? Like Scrum Master or product. That's when all these new things come up. Can I go become a Scrum Master? Can I become a product owner? Can I become a developer? Can I become anything else? But no, not developer. Can I become anything else that doesn't involve coding? It's strange. I do see regularly in interviews, there are people who try and know a little bit of automation or have put in efforts to learn automation, but then have never had the chance to do anything more or learn from someone who knows it well, and then struggle with it, saying, okay, now I don't know who I am. What am I supposed to do? That's sad. That's sad to see.
And if I may just add to what you were saying, Seema, there is this whole bunch of people who are focusing on learning automation just to clear that interview.
Yes, that's another set of.
Yeah, and I mean, I have been told on my face, that next job, that next offer letter matters to me, and I will focus only on that. I don't care what happens after that. After that, even I have to do manual testing, I don't mind. I've been told this. Okay, I don't know if the company is offering automation or not, but since this is what they expect me to do in the interview, I will do it. I will get that offer, and I need that salary.
But again, it's driven by those decisions where companies are, yes, we need automation testers. They just want these cleared interview candidates to come in. And then there is no project in place. There is no thought process of why we are recruiting. What are we recruiting these people for? That is missing. When that is missing, of course, people will say, yes, let me just clear the interview. I just need the salary and the role.
Yeah, that's one thing. And then along with it,
Honeypot,
yeah.
and they will come there.
And along with it comes a whole set of challenges when they put these coding challenges. So there's this another set. I mean, some companies do it for whatever roles that they are hiring.
My mind blew when I saw Nishant's interview in TTC group yesterday. The questions that he was posting, the kind of questions he was asked, coding questions.
Yeah.
I was lost. I was like, seriously, this is the level.
No, I mean, I understand. Okay, so coming to Nishant's question, there was one very interesting thing that he posted. For example, logic for solving Sudoku. Okay, now I do not know the real purpose that the interviewer had, because the question that Nishant posted was that he was asked about the logic for solving Sudoku. If it's just the logic, okay, if it is just the logic, then it is not talking about automation or anything like that, because it's logic. Okay, and irrespective of whether you test with a tool, without a tool, that sense of logic should be there. So if you have ever solved a Sudoku, then you should be able to, try and explain that. And if you know the technique of solving, for example, there's something called as algorithm X, okay, which is a technique for solving Sudoku, which is a little, I mean, I am yet to understand that. I'm trying to learn that. Okay, but then I solve Sudoku puzzles just with.
Come on, is this what they're going to do in their daily life once they something that is required for them to be doing? So even as interviewers, we have to be conscious about what is it that who are you trying to recruit? And then once they come, what is it that they're going to do? Look for that type of people. We're asking for the sun and the stars and the sky, and then give them something else that is not even close to it.
No, I do not know Nishant's exact situation, why he was asked that question, but only purely from that question. Okay, as an interviewee, as a candidate, my feeling is that, I need to be able to distinguish between questions which are centered on writing code, or testing my logical abilities, or testing my aptitude, because the aptitude, the logical ability, the capacity to think, critical thinking, and all of that will play a role. Okay, and that's my opinion. Okay, yes, you are absolutely right, Seema. Everything has to be looked at from the context of that particular job, that particular role. Okay, if that role does not demand anything of that sort, then let's not go there. It's wasting the employer's time, it's wasting the candidate's time. And more companies are going that route, where they put these coding challenges and whatever. I think that's okay. Anyways, so what I wanted to discuss further is, according to you, those who are in the call, what are some of the trends that you have noticed as far as hiring in with automation scale goes?
Hey, hi Brijesh. This is Casey here.
Hey, Casey.
Yeah, just want to add one more point that we were discussing earlier, like regarding Nishant's comment in TTC. Actually, see, sometimes interviewers, they ask such kind of questions to figure it out whether it's not that whether you know or you don't know. Sometimes you also need to say, I don't know. Most of the candidates, they don't basically express that opinion that, hey, I'm sorry, I don't know. I will try to explore it, or I haven't worked or given an opportunity. I would like to basically understand the things. So most candidates, they don't say all these things actually. I don't know what's the problem with them, but if you see, maybe sometimes they ask certain questions which no one knows. For example, if I ask you, like, can you write an algorithm for shortest path, shortest distance? We don't know. Sometimes, a person who knows that, they can able to answer. But if you don't know, you can always say that, yeah, I haven't worked on it, but I'm ready to explore, or I want to learn certain things. You always need to say certain things actually. But even after saying all these things, if the interviewer is looking or enforcing that, hey, why didn't you learn, or why didn't you know, then it is a big no for that company actually. It means that that interview is nothing, is senseless actually.
I agree to that. But then again, it depends on the candidate as well, whether he or she is able to take that judgment call. Okay, or sometimes we are a little too desperate. We say, okay, no matter what, we have to try and crack this interview. Okay, it's like, okay, I can, if I think that I can let this go, then probably I should let that go if it is not making sense. But then still there is this bad feeling that we have. Oh, I was asked this question, I did not know the answer to that. Okay, and
But then that depends on the overall experience of the interview as well, right?
Right.
So it's a one-off, or if it's just to check that you've asked such a question, then great. That kind of answer matters. But if the overall experience of that interview hasn't been great and it's setting you up for failure, or you are sure that you don't want this candidate, then it becomes a bad experience, I guess.
Yes, that's true. But based on whatever he has written, right? The
Yeah.
person has asked a bunch of questions
Yeah.
on testing as well. He mentioned that they drill, I think, in BDD framework or TestNG and Maven, a bunch of things. It's not just he or she is focusing only on, data structures and algorithms or something else actually. Maybe that is one area they might have focused, but it's not just the only area that they are looking actually. See, but this is the current trend with respect to the automation in interviews are like, most companies are looking for a coding skills actually, or a problem solving skills. See, when we say problem solving skills or a coding skills, it doesn't mean that, okay, someone has to know a data structure, or someone has to know a particular algorithm, or there are a bunch of algorithms. It's not something like that. It's like, if you get a critical situation, how are you going to solve the problem? What is your debugging skills, or how are you going to approach to that and get the solution as soon as possible? That is what people are looking. Say, as I posted sometime, I think a couple of days back, I clearly mentioned like 40% of the interview is completely based on technical skills. Either it could be coding skills or automation skills or whatever it is. But the rest of the person, like, for example, like 10% they are looking for, end-to-end taking the ownership skills actually. And the 10%, you also need to have some mentorship skills if you are looking for lead roles or senior roles. And they are also looking, attitude skills, or how you basically fit in the team. So most companies, they invite for lunch interview. I don't know whether people are following it in India, but in US and Canada, they basically follow something called as lunch interviews. It's like they see like how you are going to fit in the team, and they try to forcefully ask you different set of questions like, what are your likes and what do you do during the weekends, and a bunch of questions actually. You should be really careful over there actually. And people also start looking like whether you are thinking out of the box, or you have some innovative skills. So these kind of the different set of things, play a major role. So 40% is only technical. The rest of the 60% is a combination of all these things. There are certain people, even though they didn't do well in the technical, not that great, but people whoever basically expressed that, okay, they could able to learn certain things independently, they could able to grasp the things, and who are really good at in the rest of the 60% of the skills, they got better opportunities and better offers actually. And there are a lot of people who are working in better good companies as well. That is what the industry is looking right now. We are all today we are all focusing in such a world that, okay, for XYZ companies, what are all the interview questions? It's not a question bank. It's not a question bank. People need to realize that factor. What are all the questions for HCL company, Capgemini? This is not going to help anyone actually. People who are doing this process, they will see a downfall down the line actually, because you will nowhere learn the things, you will nowhere understand the practical part of the things, and this is really going to hamper each and everyone who are going to follow this kind of a process. Yeah.
So true what you said.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, I was talking to an ex colleague of mine. He's a test manager and currently hiring for automation roles. And he told me very clearly that your ability to write the correct syntax is the lowest priority that I have. Okay, he clearly told me that syntax, I'm not bothered. So if you're thinking, oh, you should know the nitty-gritties of Java and how do you write, I don't care. Okay, I want to see how you react in that situation if I give you a puzzle. Okay, do you have the skills to write basic algorithms? Okay, do you still believe in the concept of flowcharts? Okay, what we learned in the very basics. So he's like, how strong are your basics? How well can you respond in that situation? Okay, if I give you something. If there is something that I give you suddenly, I'm talking about something and then all of a sudden I give you, how do you respond in that situation? And like Casey said, I mean, problem solving skills. Okay, I give you a problem and I say, okay, this is what my situation is. How would you break it down? How would you approach it? The whole attitude towards it. He categorically mentioned that those are the things that I look for. I mean, and people pay so much attention to getting into coding and learning the language and there are these constant questions. Oh, will this combination work or not? I mean, he clearly said, languages you can learn very fast, but do you have an understanding of what we are trying to do with this? Okay, are you asking the right set of questions? Even in that, okay, where he was like, when I give candidates a certain problem, there are only a few, one or two, who would try to know more about that problem or come back with questions. Okay, in an interview, how do candidates respond? How do they react to a particular question that has been asked to them? Do they ask counter questions to know more about that? Do they get to the meta of that question? What is being really looked for? Okay, getting to that meta is very important. A lot of times candidates, it just goes in a Q&A mode, the interview. And that, I completely agreed with him because I have had the same experience in the past few weeks. There are candidates who just come with that mindset, oh, I'm going to be asked a question and I need to give the answer. There is no thought about turning the whole thing into a discussion. They are not willing to discuss more or ask more questions themselves. And I have to keep poking them. Okay, do you understand what I'm asking? Is there anything that you want to know more? I have had two candidates who on their resume were very strong, but they did not ask me any questions. They did not have any questions throughout the interview. And finally, when I asked, do you have any questions? Even then, they did not have any questions. So that is a problem, and especially when you're talking about situations with automation, when you are asked questions around that, there's a lot of scope of improvement. Okay, Faiz, I see your hand raised. Sunny, I see your hand raised.
Yeah.
But
So just wanted to add few points on what you said.
Mm.
So first of all, there is lot of, I can say, chaos or confusion in the industry regarding this interview process. One thing is that people will ask for like n number of skills. Okay, not a single skill related to testing, but n number of skills related to test automation. When they join, they would not ever see like Eclipse or any other IDE or GitHub or something, right? During the entire 1 or 2 year tenure, they will not do, they will not write even a single line of code. There is one thing. Another thing, as you said, that interviewers should, I think that test manager which you were referring, so I like that he's having that clarity that, you know, syntax doesn't matter that much, because anyways means it's just a Google click away. But there are instances, I don't know whether you know about it or not, but many interviewers are asking questions like write code about reading or writing Excel with Apache BOI. Now, I don't think anyone would be able to write that entire code, because it's like too complex. You cannot remember all those class names and all those things. So such kind of situations are happening. So because of this kind of situations, people are getting, you know, and one another thing, that SDET title is there. Okay, but SDET title means there is no like we can say clarity, or we cannot say there is same level about using the titles across the company, across the industry. So in one company, SDET may need to know only like very basic knowledge of test automation, but in other company the SDET needs to know like the DSA, which Casey was talking about, like in a very in-depth manner. Okay, so there is those kind of inconsistencies are there, so people are getting confused that what they need to prepare based on their experiences, based on this kind of like confusion or chaos around all those these wordings and experiences. So I think there needs to be clarity, but people need to somewhere realize that one or two instances or many bad instances doesn't mean they need to know more from the generic perspective. They need to talk to someone who is actually, you know, doing automation, who is actually knowing automation, that what actually should be asked, what actually needs to be prepared. So if they have that clarity, then we can maybe avoid that situation. But I think as an industry, in terms of job description and in terms of taking interviews as well, we need to improve somewhere. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
definitely, I agree with that, Faiz. Sunny, you have your hand up.
Hey, hi. Well, actually, I have one point that Casey mentioned, one good point that about the downfall and the companies. Well, I believe on practical note on ground level, in India, most of the employment goes for replaceable model. That there is a long queue, and if something is not working, or if the candidate is not having that mindset, okay, there is a next in queue, and that will definitely answer, and that will get back to that seat they are looking for. So due to this model, the policies, good thoughts, and the moral and the etiquettes are very difficult to implement. That is a ground level thing that I have seen. The other thing that I have seen, that although at a high level the test manager, team lead want a mindset of a QA, that okay, I want someone to be having a QA analytics skill and everyone, but end of the day, the first round will be taken care by a mid-level experienced guy, 7 years, 8 years, and they are expecting a very technical technical things from the candidate. And now whenever there is an feedback given to the manager, it's like, okay, that guy is not technically sound, whereas the questions are just like our just like asking for the syntax or Excel reading and everything. So now there is a big gap between what someone is expecting and what someone is trying to do in the first level of interview. So these are some really hard fact, on ground real fact, that really haunting every one of us.
Yeah, good point, Sunny.
Apart from interviews asking
hard questions as such. I've also seen the opposite trend where when you ask simple questions like what automation do you do these days, they say, okay, I just write and maintain tests, fine. What kind of framework do you use, or what is your project, the way it is set up, can you describe that? Oh, I don't know about that. I only know how to write tests. So if you can't describe the project that you're working on, or the way okay, basic, can you explain to me what is the folder structure like, if you can? I'm not really sure. I can write tests, I can fix tests, that's it. That is when it's questionable. If you don't even know the work that you're currently doing, then how can you add value afterwards? So you might know theoretically, I know this framework, I know how it is set up, I know the basics of it, I know the theoretical answers to it. But if you can't explain to me, how do you write tests? How do you run tests? Okay, we have a set of 200 tests that are automated. How do you run it? Jenkins runs it. Okay, what's the process like? Which tests do you run, where and how? I'm not really sure the team lead does that. Okay, have you ever thought about at least trying to find out what is the overall picture of how it works? That's where I find that curiosity, that trying to understand the bigger picture. Yes, I'm responsible only to write tests, then what? What happens to it? What does it mean? That's not there. And from an interviewer perspective, we ask every candidate, do you know how to create a new framework, test automation framework? Do I need every other person to create an automation framework? Probably not. We might already have a framework in place. The others will need to have a knowledge of how to make use of it. That is also a thing.
That's absolutely true, and it reminds me of one of the very recent interviews that I had taken, and I was very curious to know about, because the candidate had mentioned so much about creating frameworks and all that. So I asked that candidate if if she had actually built that framework or participated in creating that framework. And her answer was yes. So I said, okay, so could you explain, or could you draw and show what the framework looked like, or what is the architecture? And then I asked if that was in line with the application architecture. And the answer that followed was, no, I have no clue of what the application architecture is. Okay, and this was the answer that was given. And that made me wonder that, okay, if you have absolutely no idea about your application architecture, and you do not know what or where your, the architecture of your framework fits in the whole scheme of things, then I have my doubts if you really worked on it or not. That's an indication for me. So, that plus, the ability of people to explain what they do in the project or what their project is all about, that's also another thing. And that for me is irrespective of whether you're doing automation or not. I mean, if you can explain your role, or if you can explain your project or whatever you're doing currently, then it makes a lot of difference. And I see a lot of candidates falling short when it comes to explaining their current work. So yeah,
I'd like to add only one or two lines over there, what Seema and you have said. So it is because of that tendency to, only just to get that next job or next offer letter or next promotion or whatever. So what is happening, that let's say people have learned something, some topic, then they have got the job. Maybe on the job they need to learn something. So they only, restrict themselves to only that much required knowledge regarding any topic. And what happens that when the career progresses, of course you need you come up with a different set of challenges. You need to have different kind of responsibilities. You may need to create frameworks from scratch and so on and so forth. But what is happening, that because they have restricted themselves, so they're like, okay, and I'm not blaming themselves also, because they might have choose automation not via their own choice, but because of the reasons like better pay or something. So because of that, what is happening that eventually they are, as Casey said, that they are somewhere going down the line. Also, they are, somewhere they are, I can say that they are somewhere lacking themselves, and it makes their confidence shoot down also. And it's and when such new challenges come, they and sometimes in day-to-day work also, if someone has cracked any interview, they take more time than expected from a engineer knowing those kind of concepts. So it's actually taking more time, but people fail to realize that if they purposely in a planned manner learn automation, I can say that it maximum can take 6 months. Okay, I'm talking about basic, not about advanced. Okay, but to learn the basic things, it can take maximum 6 months. If you daily give 1 hour, then also make 6 months are more than enough. And that will, I think, give you at least advantage to, you may not need to learn. I'm not saying you should not learn, but you may not need to learn new concepts for at least a year also. But people fail to realize that they are just doing that short term planning goes, they are only focused on the short term goals. They are not doing that long term planning, or they are do not have that long term vision. That's why they are doing this, and that's why we are seeing such situations. So that's what I wanted to add.
Good points. Ajay, you had a few things to mention. I saw you wrote some things in the chat.
Yeah, so when we talk about interviews and the problems in interviews, like, okay, why do we ask such questions or things like that? It is, let's for a few seconds scope out and think big. Why are you hiring? For what position? For who is doing the interview? Is the interviewer skilled? Are we hiring for the right positions? Right? With sometimes there is no clarity. It is, hey, the candidate is here, can you take an interview? You get that invite 15 minutes before the interview. Now what will that person ask? That person will ask what that person knows and feels and understands and assumes about the position. Correct? Whereas the one who gets to work with this candidate might have X expectations, and this interviewer has Y expectations, and in between the Z, the candidate actually gets to suffer in all of these. So is there a solution? If we wait, think enough, yes. But are we okay to wait for this? No, we are too busy delivering in sprint work. Right? So let's accept it. I mean, it's the same case of, yes, we know there is a flat tire, but I don't have time to wait. I need to keep running. If we keep running, one day it will explode. Till then, let's enjoy this mess. So is hiring broken? Many times, yes. Is it intentional? Again, many times, no. People, see, everyone wants to give their best. Talent acquisition wants to give their best. Hiring team, HR team wants to give their best. The manager who creates the JD wants to give the best. Maybe intentionally they don't know, right? They don't know that, oh, I'm asking too many things at once in this JD. The last 2-3 JDs I've wrote have received good response from the community, and I've not mentioned even a single tool name or a testing technique. I've not even used automation words. All I've said is, hey, if we can work together for 30 minutes, you're in. That's the end goal, right? So, yeah. So it is not about, see, we keep saying, there is a problem in industry. There's a problem in industry. Who is the industry?
We are.
We are the industry. Now, did we do anything to correct that? If not, then we cannot complain. If we have done something, okay, then why are you complaining? You are doing your part. Right? So, yeah. I saw teapot, high teapot.
Interestingly, so when I got into this mode, this current organization, and started talking about interviews and things like that, I have seen that there are multiple areas where we need to improve, and I've been trying to work with HR and other groups, the talent acquisition teams, to streamline the process, and it has to improve drastically. There is probably a complete upheaval required in certain places, but at the same time, the current situation that we are in, where the hiring process is continuous, that also can't stop till the process is mature enough, right? So we have to take steps ourselves to try and bring in those changes. For example, put the effort of reviewing that job description that is going out. Reading it carefully, making sure that people understand. Look at it from the candidate's perspective. Try and see if it makes sense to the candidates. Are we asking for too much? Do we really need a Superman or a Superwoman for this role? Okay. 10 things. Yeah, maybe in the project, we are dealing with 10 different things. But will that candidate be working on all 10 of them? Is that exactly what I expect of him or her? It's something that I need to be very clear about. Then the teams putting in that job description. I've also seen inputs coming in from marketing on job description. Okay, so that clarity has to be there. While marketing is trying to put in their views, do they understand enough about the role? If not, we try and educate them. If it is not required in the current situation, then we wait till later. Let's focus on hiring that candidate right now. Okay, discuss internally within the team that, okay, this is what I need. Okay, I may need somebody to assist my test lead who's working on an important piece. Okay, and he needs some support with certain technology skills. Okay, so let that person, whoever wants to work with him or her, take the lead in doing the interview, because that is where the collaboration will happen. And like a few minutes ago, Casey was mentioning, okay, there is this trend of lunch interviews. Now with things going remote, yeah, things are different. So there is only a virtual lunchtime. Okay, actually people have lunch whenever there is a possibility. Otherwise, earlier, before in the pre-COVID era, yeah, the lunch interviews were a very strong part of the culture here in Europe as well. They would invite candidates to join the team for lunch, just have a chat. So everybody in the team gets an opportunity to interact with that person and then has a feedback. Okay, and that person also knows, oh, if I join this team, then this is the group of people that I'll be working with. I've also seen a company doing interviews with the junior most person in the team, starting with the interview, not the senior most, the other way around. The first interview is taken by the junior most guy in the team because he has to work with that person at whatever role that person is coming in. Okay, so how comfortable I am in talking to that person. It is a test for both parties. Okay, I've even seen that. But when it comes specifically to automation roles, what problems are you trying to solve with automation? Do you have enough clarity? What kind of tools, technology, whatever you are looking for, do you have that? And based on that, are you asking for the right skills from the candidate? Are you asking for the right tool set from the candidate? Or, you are mixed up between must have and nice to have skills and tools. Okay, that clarity, if it is not there, because a lot of times people list, okay, they themselves are working on, say, for example, they themselves are working on C# and they ask for Java and other languages, or they just don't mention anything. They are not specific enough saying, okay, we need people with expertise in C#. They just mention, oh, I need somebody with Selenium. Okay, then what happens? So has that person ever tried to do anything other than Selenium and Java? Has that person experimented with something else? I'm not saying that it is rocket science or it is very difficult, but has there any experiment of that sort happened? So instead of mentioning the whole thing, narrow it down, make it a little more specific, review the job descriptions, get people's opinion. Okay, let the team also play a role in helping you build that job description or during the interview process. It's not just what that one person has to do. I mean, when in India, I have also done this. Okay, if I have to take an interview and if I'm late, I would just tap on somebody's shoulder The candidate is waiting. Can you just go and handle this one for me? I've been guilty of doing that in the past. Then I realized that no, interviews need proper planning, their duration. Okay, I need to hire 10 people. So I have 40 candidates lined up. How many can I handle in a day? How will I do justice to that interview in the number of minutes that I'm talking about? And there was a situation where I had back-to-back interviews. Okay, how many can I handle? 30 minutes per interview, 16 interviews in a day, in 8 hours. But I had 17 or 18 interviews, which means that my lunch hour is also gone. So, and do I do justice to every interview? No. Is 30 minutes sufficient for every discussion? No. I need to be, wise enough in realizing what is required and things like that. So yeah, so the interview process, the whole hiring thing, of course, that needs a lot of work, and especially when it comes to automation, it needs a lot more clarity, a lot more refinement. People need to be wise enough in understanding what is the goal. Okay, what is it that you're actually looking for? What is your own technology stack? Are you looking at something very specific, or are you expecting Bahubali in your team, who knows everything, who can see the future and say, oh, in future you may have a complete change in tech stack, so I'm already future proof. So I don't know. I mean, those kind of thoughts cross my mind, but yeah. That said, some people haven't spoken. Teapot, good morning.
Good morning, guys. I was just trying to listen to what everyone is saying, and it's quite interesting, but there's something I want to point out as well. If you look at the attitude of automation in an organization, what do you see? I tend to see that the attitude is exactly the attitude of their test manager or test lead or whoever is in charge of their testing. I found from my little journeys around that it is the knowledge, the belief, the structure that the test lead or the test manager has that basically forms the attitude of everybody else around automation. So when we're talking about when we're interviewing people and the sort of things we're asking them, when you're asking someone to do something and tell you something about Selenium, for example, from my experience, I teach test managers for my clients that, look, don't go after the tool first. Think of what you want to do, and then look at the tools that could do it for you, that you could use. So when you go out to recruit people, you're looking for people who knows automation beyond, oh, I can use Selenium and Java or Selenium and Python or Selenium and this ABCD. I recently started learning Perl a few weeks ago because I saw James Bark used it at the competition last year. I use Java. There is pretty much nothing I can do with Java. But I never tell anyone that I'm looking for someone who could use Java. No. When you get to the team, when we get to the point of getting to automate checks, we would review what we have to do. And I am very fortunate because most of my clients, they don't have tools. So I have to lead the effort to procure it. I don't just go, right, that's it, we're getting that tool. Based on what? And when I ask the test lead or the test managers for my client, the in-house test managers, what do you think? I can tell that they have particular preferences. They have particular preferences towards tools, towards languages, towards this and that. I said, listen, why? Why do everybody have to go with that? Can you justify it? What's the best tool to use? What is the best framework to use, who is going to manage it and stuff. So I think as recruiters ourselves, we need to do an inward assessment of ourselves. Our own attitude and belief and knowledge and strength and skills in automation drives everybody else. So we need to understand that. Then we need to make sure that we let them know, even when we say, let's do X, and no one is willing to challenge us on that. I try to let them know why I say that. And I tell them, look, challenge me, ask me a question. Now is the right time to do it, not when I've given you a task to do. Because if you don't ask me the question now, and you ask me 2 weeks later, when I've already given you a task to do, it becomes a confrontation. And to me, that means you don't want to do what I ask you to do. So if you have a question, ask it now. It might be your question that will change the direction of everything we're trying to. And I think that is really important, because when I interview people, I look at your general skills around automation. I don't care if you have Selenium. That's not. We might not even use Selenium. I don't care if you know only how to use Python or no. You see, all of those knowledge you have, if it works for me, if you fit in to what the team I'm trying to build, because you won't be the team by yourself. You won't be working by yourself. You're going to be in a team of 4 or 5 people. So if I want you to have all the skills, all the knowledge and everything, why do I need the rest of it? I might as well just make you the team. So I think we need to assess our own, as test managers, we need to assess our own attitude, our own beliefs and knowledge, because that kind of feed into how we build our team as well. And that is really important. It's the difference between going home to sleep at the end of the day or not. And I can tell you that for free. Because when I work in some places and I inherit some teams and I have to work with them, I spend a few good days sitting there and just learning from them how they do what are they doing, how are they doing it and stuff like that. And when I start engaging with them at that point, before we even start doing anything, it kind of resolves a lot of the problem that we would have in the future. Well, if I sit down and go, right, I am here now, I'm in charge, I just need to do my job, put the team in, put the tool in, and off I go, fine. No, it's not going to work. I need to look at the attitude of the test lead or the manager first. What do they know? How do they think automation should be used? How do they go in the procurement of automation tools? What do they use it for? Are they hands-on? Because you have a lot of test managers that are not even hands-on. They can't write a single line of code, but they run a team that do all these fantastic things. And when these guys are talking to them, it's like everything is just going over their head and stuff. So I think, and that's something that I think we should all be big on, and we should think about, especially as members of the TTC, we should all be big on it. Assessment starts from you. And then when you write your job description and you look at it, the question I ask myself is, if I was looking for a job at this level, would I apply for this job that I want to recruit for? If I can't apply for my own job that I've written the job description for, why would I expect anyone else to do it? If my job description is confusing, if it's not clear enough, if it's asking for so many, everything everywhere, would I apply for it? No. So if I wouldn't apply for it, why would I expect anyone else to do it? So I look at it from the point of, I know a little bit here and there that could help me shape my team. So it's not just me asking people, write this line of code, give me that kind of thing. No. I want to see how we can put all of these skills together as a team. And that goes down from what I know. So if I'm trying to buy a tool and I need people to come and use it, before I buy the tool, I personally will have looked at what we need to do. I will speak to the rest of the team and go, right, this is my opinion about what we're trying to do. And I'm tending toward this. What do you think? And then people will come in with so many other things and everything. We talk about it, discuss it. That formed the basis of who we're looking for. And when we're asking people about what we want them to do, you're not just going to come in and be doing that Selenium thing or that Python thing. No, it's a test team. We do so many things on the test team. I wouldn't expect you to write Python for 6 months of a contract or 9 months of a contract. Dude, you're going to do so many other things. So I look for those things as well. And then when you fit into my team, you would realize that if you write something, we would find out if it's wrong or not. If we write something, you would find out if it's wrong or not, because we're pretty much almost at par in terms of what we're trying to do, what our knowledge of which direction are we going. We are all in the same direction. So that's my contribution to the conversation. And thank you so much, Ajay, for and everybody else that's speaking. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
No, that was good, Teapot, especially the fact to see you in a meetup. And I don't see a coffee cup around you, so I don't know how long you've been awake. Vidya and Clive, I haven't heard from you guys. You guys have any thoughts to share? Okay, so moving on, what are some of the when interviewing when you are in an interviewer's role and you are interviewing for let's say an SDET who at say 5 years, 6 years experience range, what are some of the key things that you would look for?
Okay, I would like to go first. So I would not agree with the title though, because may change, expectation may change, but
no, okay, so
general,
let me set the context. Okay, so your company has the title of NSDET, and that is what you're supposed to go with. Okay, let me put that restriction on you.
Okay.
You are not allowed to change things the way you want to.
Okay. So I will assume that my company uses the word SDET, but it does not require that much of a DSA. Okay, and we're going with that assumption with 5 or 6 years experienced candidate. Hello. So first thing which I will do is I will first check the candidate's ability regarding the concepts. Okay, so I will try to know the basic concepts like OOPS concepts and all those things. Then I will try to know what, let's say if I talk about Java, so do they know how to do exception handling? Do they know collections, because we use collections in our we can say day-to-day automation? Okay, do they know file handling? So those basic kind of things I might ask them. Apart from that, if they are good at then I would ask them what kind of what kind of experience they have, what they are currently doing in their already existing role, what they are contributing, what kind of framework is there, are they able to explain it or not, what part they have contributed? Because it's Seema or maybe you mentioned that sometimes it's like there is Jenkins but they have not worked on Jenkins. It's fine, but do they know what Jenkins is? Or if let's say I want them to make a basic Jenkins job, would they be able to do that? Okay, I may or may not judge them on basis of that, because because as per my understanding, at 5 to 6 years Jenkins is a good tool, it's not a must have skill. So to list the must have skills, I would say the clarity of the coding concepts, clarity of one programming language. Okay, the area which they are working in. So let's say it can be Selenium, if maybe most popular is Selenium. For API, it can be anything like REST assured or something if it comes to Java, and APM is there for the mobile. So if they work from any one of them, then how much they know about it? They should be having, at least I can say, because it's the 5 to 6 years, so they should be having something more than basic level of understanding, maybe intermediate, maybe lower than intermediate, but definitely should be more than a beginner. And then I would like to know that they should be knowing at least one testing framework. So because let's say if because what we do, we in test automation framework, regardless of the language, there is one testing framework. Like Java would be using TestNG, for Python it would be like PyTest, for JUnit they are JSTen, so not JavaScript, they are JSTen, many many others. So one of that, and they should be knowing at least one reporter tool. So to summarize, they should be knowing basic coding concepts, basic one language, one area, and one tool from that area, one test framework, one reporting tool, and Git concept. I believe at 5 to 6 years you should be able to check in your code. So these things, if they know from somewhere above than beginner up to intermediate level, then I think it's good to go.
That was a good list, Faiz. Seema, you've been hiring a lot.
Yes, but I tried to remove the SDET as such title from the role wherever I've gone. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've not had resistance in it whenever I've asked for it to be changed, because I don't need testers who will only write code based on someone else writing a manual test case, hand it over to automation, and that person only automates. I don't like that concept. I've not encouraged it in wherever I've worked in. Yes, that kind of situation might be needed in certain organizations. It's needed and it might work, but at least where I have worked, I haven't felt the need for it. So I look for people who know testing, who can do testing, identify what needs to be done. One, to test, and two, to speed up the testing. And to speed up, you need automation. And for automation, it depends again on what level I'm looking for. For example, in a tribe, I might have a good balance of very experienced testers with a lot of automation knowledge, or it could be testers who are willing to learn automation, because we need to balance it out by giving opportunity to people who want to learn and gain experience, as well as the ones who have automation experience. They need to be able to guide, mentor, or teach the ones who don't know as well. So I do look for the right balance in the team, rather than just look for everyone to be the experts at automation. That's not something I've done so far. And also what I look for is, do you know how to choose tools? So yeah, you've worked with Selenium or TestNG or Java, or whatever you worked in, but every time that may not be the right set of tool to use. Maybe that's what fitted well with your previous company that you were working in. Maybe that's not the best strategy in this company. Now, will you just use Selenium, Java, whatever you know, because you know that, or will you look for what is the best tool to use here? That attitude needs to be there to question, is this the right thing to do here? So that's something I look out for. And like I said earlier, I do like to know, even if you didn't write the framework, doesn't matter. Do you know what you're doing right now in your job? Do you know beyond, yes, I write test. Okay, fine, you write test. Beyond that, do you understand what is the lay of the land? Do you understand? Do you question? I like that, because that is where you start questioning. That is where you start filling the gaps. I've had really nice teammates who have found that, yeah, there is a gap. This is taking me too much time. Seema, do you think I can add a test framework for this? Do you think I can get this tool in place and we can make this a faster process? That is amazing. I don't want people who will say, I will only write automation. That's all I will do. And when I look for people with automation skills, I also want them to have good communication skills, because they are not going to be sitting on their own and writing code. They need to be interacting with developers. They need to be interacting with other testers in the team. They need to be able to coach and mentor as needed. They will also need to be able to write code in a way that is readable by others and that can be carried forward. It's not that person only who will read that code that they've written. It needs to be read by another person, understood by another person as well. How did you build this, or why did you build it this particular way? That needs to be understood. They need to be active in refinement sessions, or in the sprint when we are testing the new features. They need to be active there and question some of the things, and especially when it comes to testability. Can it be tested? Will it be testable? And what about when it comes to automation? How are we going to go about this? They need to be able to speak to the DevOps team. They need to be able to speak to infrastructure in a language that is understood by both product as well as developers and infrastructure. So an automation tester is not a lone person who writes code, sits in a corner and writes code that's been asked to be coded. They need to be doing more than that. And that's what I look for. I look for an overall. Yes, your basic fundamentals are important, but there's a lot beyond that.
Indeed, indeed. In fact, I remember this guy who came into the team, and on the very second day of his job, he came to me and he said, I was looking at the framework and I think there is a big room of improvement in the framework. It can be optimized and made better. And so obviously I asked him to give a detailed set of observations that he has made, and to set up a meeting with the team and take the lead on that one. And he did that thing within the first 10 days of joining. He looked at it, he made sure that the framework is updated. Okay, he threw away a bunch of code which was redundant and not being used effectively. Made significant changes, and that showed very positive results. So these are the kind of people that you would actually want in your team, who would go above and beyond and say, okay, yeah, I know that I'm supposed to write automated tests, but what else can I do? Can I make the framework or the process more efficient? Okay, like Seema was saying, that speed things up. How can a tester come in and think from that perspective? That I've got something, can I make it better? Can I make it more efficient? Can I make it more effective for others? And it's not just me who's going to be using it. There are going to be a bunch of people who are using it. It will be everybody's benefit, right? Okay, so some good points. Ajay?
Yes, Brajesh.
So what do you look for if you are hiring for? I know that I've seen the job descriptions that you've put out lately, and I know that you've not mentioned any tool or anything like that. But I'm sure you've also, in your experience, hired certain automation specialists, or so what is
Yeah,
it?
so half of the time goes in convincing that that is a true job description. When I talk to people, they are like, hey, we know you wrote that, but tell me what you look for. I'm like, no, exactly whatever I wrote is what I look for, right? And then I ask them, hey, look, this is the kind of challenges I'll be facing, and I want someone to help me solve those kind of challenges. You will get A, B, C kind of support, and if I am your manager, I will unblock you in terms of anything and everything around the challenge, but not exactly that challenge. Because if I knew to solve that challenge, I would not have hired you, for example, right? So I need you to solve that challenge. But I'll not ask you for reports, I'll not ask you for status, I'll not ask you for check-ins. I mean, check-ins as in like, okay, when you logged out, when you logged in, I'll not ask you, I'll say, what do you need to give your 100% at work? Anything that prevents you from giving that, solving that also becomes my problem along with your problem, right? So I will do that. And for automation, I would rather, for example, if it is, super specific challenge, I would get someone who has worked on that to ask for questions on the lines of, show me proof that you are capable of solving similar problems. Resume is the last thing that we go through, but rather ask them, Okay. We are looking for someone to automate on web, then okay, have you done it before? If not, why do you think you can now? Show me proof. If you don't have proof, can you take up this test and then come back with your approach? You solve it, you don't solve it, that's a different story. We want to see your approach. Can you do it now? If not, okay, how much time do you need? 5 days? Okay, then the problem is the challenge or complexity increases, right? So something, if someone really knows stuff or has the passion to get to a solution within 5 days, can solve. If you are just bluffing around, you can definitely not solve it or even think on the similar lines. So those kind of challenges are given, and once they present, so we do see on how they communicate, how they follow up, did they actually solve the right problem or not. Some people, interestingly, they give so much info, but that is nothing to do with the problem. For example, think of the Wordle challenge, right? Sometimes I give that and say, how will you test it? Give me your approach. I don't want the word. I don't want the final word. Many people come up with the final word and said, yes, we cracked it, so we'll get the job. I'm like, no, you will not get. The objective was not to get to the final word. That was a bonus if you got it. But the objective was to assess how you think, how did you approach it? Like, for example, in the previous round, few earlier minutes, we had the discussion around Sudoku, right? Why Sudoku? Will that person do Sudoku in their daily job? No, they'll not. But the skills that are being assessed in that question, that can be applied in real life, real-time jobs. Like, do you observe? Do you take notes? Do you ask for help when needed? Do you accept that you don't know something? Do you accept that you have zero experience in Sudoku? Do you learn quickly? These are something that can be translated to real work as well. Now, if I tell you that this is a real-time problem, then the way you approach it versus the way you approach a Sudoku is totally different. And hence, sometimes we want to catch you off guard, saying, there's not a problem. There's not an interview, right? How do you do? Oh, okay, thank God there's not an interview. That in itself gives saying, oh, you, for the interview, you were someone else, you are trying to project yourself as someone else. Like, hey, it might be right in your context, but I don't want to work with someone who is living two lives. So, right, at least for my context. So it comes down to that Navy thing, right? There is high skill, there is low skill, there is high trust, low trust. I really want people in that high trust, high skill and high trust, low skill, rather than high skill but low trust. I don't want to go there, right? So in short, someone whom I can converse with for 30 minutes, they also should feel comfortable, I also should feel comfortable. Then we'll see. The things that can be taught, but the things that cannot be taught, no. Anyone who is like super interested in automation, sometimes they might go blank if you don't ask any interview questions,
right?
Standard interview list questions. So like, hey, what do you want? See, I want problem solvers. Today, the problem is around automation. Tomorrow, if it is not, it's not. But if you are a problem solver, you can adapt to anything. But if you are saying, no, I am an automation with this tool and this framework kind of a person, your tenure in that company might be short, right? It will be disappointing for both. So yeah, that's my approach. I'm happy to learn, if some loopholes are pointed in that approach.
It's quite interesting that you also referred to the US Marine or the Navy SEALs thing, skill and trust thing, high skill, high trust, high skill. So yeah, that's a very important aspect, and there's a lot to learn from it, especially from an interviewer's perspective. Great example. Thank you. So we've reached the time actually, but since we started a couple of minutes late, so I will take the liberty of doing one small final closing comment on what do you think of career path and automation. Yeah. Is automation, let me be more specific, is automation the only skill or the skill that is required to build your career? Your take, everybody, one by one.
Okay, so it is not the only skill, but if you don't have, if you don't have any problem like lack of interest, I will only I think there is only one problem, lack of interest. If you are fearing, then there is no need of fearing all those things. But if you are not interested, then you can definitely discover other areas. But I believe somewhat coding will also be required if you are in the testing. Let's say if you are going for performance or security, so I think little bit coding is required there as well. But if you are going into path like Scrum Master or BA or product owner or something, then you might not need that. But if you are going with test automation, then you should do it properly. That's what I would like to say, and that's what I would like to conclude. So there is a path, but it depends upon your interest, and if you are choosing, choose it wisely and do it properly, wholeheartedly. If you do it wholeheartedly, success will definitely be yours. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Faiz.
I would say that automation is not the only skills that we need as testers. It's not. It's at the end point of what we need to do our job. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of things need to have been done and understood before you start considering automation skills that we've got. So that is my attitude to it. And I just want to quickly say something about what I just said earlier around interviews and stuff. I try to ask people questions that they would deal with when they get the job as part of the questions and interview. So if I ask you something at interview, you're going to see that then within a week of joining. Trust me, you're going to contend with that problem the moment you join or soon after you join. So, because I have a problem that need solving, and I'm recruiting people potentially who could solve the problem. So I will ask you some shade of the problems. Say, look, I have this problem. What do you make of it? And soon after you start working, you see people's face lit up and walk across the desk and say, oh, okay, this problem. Yeah, I did ask you at the interview. And you brilliantly said that you're going to fix it. So you have the opportunity now, so fix it. So I tend to do that. I tend to ask those questions. And I predominantly ask about 70 to 80% of my questioning at interview is centered around the problem I'm trying to fix or trying to solve. The other two is to have an understanding of how you arrived to where you are and stuff like that. But most of the questions I ask are potential problems that I've got to solve, and I need people to join me to solve. So and that's my approach alongside every other thing you said. I'm not looking for someone who can write a line of code and do some magic and all of that. No, I'm looking for someone who can think, who can advise me, who can challenge a wrong idea if they see one. There was a guy that I worked with a few years ago who were trying to do Jenkins and put the whole continuous integration pipeline together and all of that. And these guys came and said, oh, there's this tool called Splunk. And I said, oh, Splunk, what does that do? And my test manager at the time, I wasn't the test manager at the time, my test manager at the time went, teach us what Splunk does. And this guy sat down for like 2 hours or so, educated everybody. And by the end of that, everyone was screaming, Splunk, 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 we want Splunk, we want Splunk, and all of that. And we were taught how to use it. We used it and everything. It was fantastic with Jenkins, especially. It was brilliant, and all of that. I never get to use Splunk again since that time. It pains me. I spent a long time learning it, getting good at it, but I never had to use it again. You see? Now, I know what Splunk could do, but I haven't used it since 2014. None of my clients I've even heard about it. Because when I talk to them and say, "Oh, can we consider Splunk?" And I'm like, what is Splunk? No. You give me opportunity to. No, Ade, there are so many other things that we could identify and stuff. So things like that, it became a residual knowledge for me, because I now know what it could do and all of that. So those kind of things, yeah, it depends on who you ask. I get it, but I am the one asking. I am the one that needs the response. I'm the one that would evaluate your response. I'm the one that will assess your response to the question. So, because I'm the one trying to solve the problem and stuff like that. So, but I think I would adapt some shade of your approach as well. But that is my approach. I don't ask arbitrary questions about things that will not give me any benefit or privilege at the end of the day. I want to recruit people based on their ability, what they will be doing as much as possible. So I'll ask you potentially anything I ask you at interview, are things you'll be contented with a lot of the time if you join my project and stuff like that. So that is my final contribution. Automation is good, but you can actually survive a lot without it. I've started picking up a few things that are basic now. I'm learning Perl. After that, I want to learn another aspect of Selenium that I didn't learn before, or didn't know how to use it. I want to start learning all these new things and trying to see, oh, does it give me any new advantage or something like that? Because I've done over 20 years of testing. Predominantly, I used to write a lot of codes before, but predominantly I don't now. I still relate with some Java, and I'm not related with Python commercially at work. I do a lot of these things, but predominantly, most of my work is around thinking, asking questions, analyzing stuff, and my team as well. But we do use automation sometimes we don't. So automation skill is good, but it's not the end of the world. You'll still survive. You go far in testing with or without automation. That would be my contribution. But I think everyone should learn automation. So I'll leave you at that.
Thank you, Teapot. Interesting that you spoke about Splunk. So you learned Splunk, Splunk can help you with monitoring in a DevOps process. So you know exactly what other tools can also possibly do in the same space. Yeah. Right. So that makes your life a lot easier. Yeah. Now that you know one tool well, you know what other alternatives I could use in a different situation. Good. So now, Seema, Ajay.
I put out my views in the chat saying it depends on whom you ask. If you ask someone who needs an automation, then they'll say, yes, automation is the skill. If you ask a security person, they'll say, yeah, using tools, using automation, knowing programming language is important, but then you need to have a security mindset first. Similarly for accessibility or usability. So you ask three people will give you three different answers. You have to listen to only one person, and that's you. Ask yourself, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? What are you skilled in doing? What you don't like to do? And then once you know that circle, then you hunt for, you become that magnet of which is that opportunity that I'm more closely attracted to. No one knows the complete story of any other individual. And then we follow that individual. Oh, that individual told go Java and then this part. Do you know that person has tried 18 times to learn Java? No. Do you know that person has not tried any other languages? No. But then we just say, oh, that person, let me ask in the group. Someone will reply, I'll follow. And after 3 days, I feel I'm not getting interested in this. Why? Because you did not listen to yourself. And then you blame that person for giving that suggestion. Right? So don't listen to anyone. As in, hear from everyone, put that your self filter, and then do what you want to do. That will, many a times, maybe testing is not the right profession for you. Maybe testing is the profession for you. Maybe testing is the profession for you for 2 years. Right? So there are so many possibilities. So get to know anything and everything. I mean, I love this quote, right? Know something about everything. Know everything about something. Now, what is that everything and what is that something? The scope of it, you decide. Right? Yeah. You want to get into that Fang Mang, see what they want. If you don't have it, then if you really want to go there, you will learn it. If you don't want to get there, see which companies match what you know. Right? And that matching exercise only you can do. You can take help of people, but you have to take that final decision. Don't give your happiness or your career path decision to someone else. It is as good as asking, whom should I marry? We can answer. People can answer. You will suffer or enjoy, not they. Right? So same applies to job. Yeah, I'm in that Sunday mood.
No, that is a good one. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if somebody asks in a Telegram group, hey, whom should I get married to? and the kind of answers that person is going to get.
Oh, so this I learned from, or I heard it first from Pradeep Soundarajan. When he told this, then I was like, yeah, ting, that ting happened. So
Absolutely. Well, Seema, closing comment.
Well, I think, is there a career in automation? Definitely, yes, there is a future, but we are testers. So we're known for thinking outside the box. So don't box yourself into automation only, because you're cornering yourself at the end of the day. You're cornering yourself and boxing yourself into, I know automation only. The more wider you think, the more out of the box you think, I think you'll be ready for anything, any trend changes, any future changes that happen. We're constantly going to evolve. It's never going to remain the same. So be ready for those ones, rather than being rigid about this is exactly what I want to be doing. And like Ajay said, learn everything. There will always be jobs, whether only manual or automation, or both manual and automation. There will always be organizations where you will not have automation, a lot of exploratory testing that will happen. And there will be organizations where everything is automation. So there's always going to be this big spectrum. But the way the trend is currently going, we are going for faster and faster releases, smaller batches, more automation, with DevOps culture, with quick releases, with all these trends coming. I think automation is important, but it's not the only thing that needs.
That's a very good thought, Seema. Well, from my perspective, we've evolved, from walking on all four to being bipedal. So that evolution has happened everywhere, in the technology world, in the industry, in the testing world, everywhere, and things is constantly evolving. And that's something that is going to keep on happening. Today, automation is a hot button. Tomorrow it may not be. It may be something totally different. So when you talk of a career, it is not just that current span of time, but it's a span of 20, 30, 40 years that you put in. So you have to start thinking in terms of that that long span that you're going to be spending your time in. And automation is one of the things that I feel is going to be a part of your career. It is like many of you said, it is not the only thing. So instead of being fixated on that, learn it well, do it well. When I started my career, I had read this line somewhere, and I used it as my email signature for quite some time. It said, be the best of whatever you are. So if you're doing something, try and be the best, try and do your best in it. give it your best shot. If you are currently trying to learn automation, do automation. Give it your best shot. Tomorrow there will be something else. You will probably need to learn that. So yeah, constantly keep evolving, keep learning, keep practicing, and you will see that your career is a lot more than one particular job that you're currently dealing with. So always keep that in mind. That was my thought. Thank you so much, everyone. We've had a extended session today. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for the inputs. We'll see you next week. Next week, exclusively, I want to talk about the low-code tools and the market potential and how things are changing, taking shape. And how we can talk about jobs and what sort of jobs are there. I have some statistics. I will probably share that with you. Of course, they are current and things will obviously change down the line. How the low-code tools are changing the market. So we'll see what potentials there is and how we can explore that. So thank you. Wish you a good rest of the Sunday and a good working week to follow.
Nice discussion.
Thank you,
so much.
Brijesh. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Happy Sunday. Bye bye.
Have a good week.
Thanks. Bye.